Hey, Alexa, what crap did John Hicks say this week on the radio? I'm sure I don't want to hear it, but I'm interested to find out.
Helping you solve the retirement puzzle. Welcome to The Retirement Solution with John Hicks.
Here with John Hicks, I'm Jennifer Perry. We'd love to hear from you here on the Retirement Solution podcast. You can always drop us an email with any questions for John at retirementsolutionradio.com. And it is the final countdown here on 2019. You've wrapped up your courses now for the year. I was checking your calendar on the website because sometimes I feel like I have to schedule my conversations with you on the calendar too. You only have 12 days left in this whole entire year where you're available for phone consultations with our listeners. I know you like to take those calls and see if you can be of assistance to our listeners here on the show. So 12 days essentially for people to get some things accomplished on their financial to-do list. And we do tend to put this off until the very end of the year for some reason.
Oh, I do.
I do
we
too.
All do, don't we?
Yeah, we're all guilty of that. So today I wanted to go over with you, what are the 5 realistic things that we can actually get done before this year ends, okay?
Do I have to come up with 5? Mm-hmm. What if we don't get them all done before the end of the year?
Well, at least maybe start on 1 or 2 of these things. I think each one on this list would make a difference for someone. Okay. So,
yeah, if they just picked one of these and got it done, they'd probably be a lot better off. Yeah,
right?
I know.
Just get her done.
So number 1, clean your gutters. Okay?
I don't want to do that.
No, I don't either. And actually, the reason I say that is because I've been a homeowner for more than 15 years. And in 15 years, I have never once cleaned my gutters. But do you know what I have done? I have paid for the damage that having clogged gutters causes my homes. I have. I've had to have, it's bad. Anyway, so let's talk about what we actually can do. You should probably really clean your gutters. But anyway, so number 1, if you're not aware of this, you need to be aware of this. Take your required minimum distribution. So here's a big one, guys. Most people are not aware of how big of a deal this is. Uncle Sam is very serious about the fact that he's broke. Yeah, that's why he's your uncle. Yeah, your uncle. I always just need a few bucks. Hey, John, can you spare a few dollars for me, sir? I could use a few dollars there. Uncle Sam needs the money. And so one of the more interesting areas of the tax code, if you look at it, all 78,423 pages, if you're into that kind of thing in your spare time, is that if you actually do not take your required minimum distribution. Now, when do we have to do this? When we turn 70 and a half.
Okay.
We have to take, it's a requirement, and if we don't take that out, Jennifer, amazingly, the government has a pretty sizable penalty. As a matter of fact, it is the largest penalty in the entire tax code.
Oh, wow.
You will pay a 50% penalty on the amount of money you should have taken as RMD if you do not do that.
50.
Ooh, 50. But here's the crazy thing, because I actually have seen this a few times over the last several years. And often, guys, it is not the individual that doesn't pay the RMD. What happens is if someone has a parent or a grandparent or an uncle or an aunt that was older, and you inherit their account, and then you don't pull the money out, that inherited IRA, you don't pull that out. I have seen 3 different times over the last 5 years that when people didn't do that, that penalty is terrible. As a matter of fact, I had a couple that inherited an account from an aunt, and it had a very sizable amount of money in it. The RMD was nearly $80,000. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Well, the couple were not aware of the rules. Their CPA, I guess they probably didn't use one. CPA didn't tell them, and that $80,000 did not come out of that account. Well, guess what? They then had to pay a $40,000 penalty because they didn't pull the money out. Wow. But guess what? And here's where it's the insult to injury. Because they didn't pull the $80,000 out when they were supposed to. They had to pay a penalty, but then they still had to take the entire $80,000 out. And they were in roughly the 25% tax bracket. So they had to pull the $80,000 out, pay 25% taxes, which is $20,000, and still pay a $40,000 penalty. Guys, they paid a $60,000 taxes plus penalty on an $80,000 withdrawal.
Wow.
Tell me that that's not the biggest ripoff on the planet.
Yeah,
but
huge.
Sadly, it can happen to any of us. So make sure you do that before the end of the year. And if you are over 70 and a half, you're aware of this. Be certain your kids are aware of that if they plan on inheriting this at one point in time. Okay?
Yeah.
So there's number 1. And just so that we can stick on picking on our tax people out there, here's another one. why don't we just consider doing what I've talked about for the past 3 years on the show, or at least 2017 when we thought that we were gonna pass this? Why don't we take advantage of that GOP tax blessing? That's right.
Yes.
It's the gift that keeps giving, Clark, for the rest of your life if you do it right. And let's talk about that for a second. What I'm talking about, why don't we go ahead and prepay our tax bill?
What? Pay now? What?
What? No, John, that's heresy. I have always been told by geniuses and titans of industry, John, I've always been told that I should defer my taxes until I'm in a cold, dark box 6 feet underground. Because then they can't get it from me. Well, they're going to get it from your account.
Right.
You're correct. They won't get it from you. They're going to get it from someone else. But let me go ahead and let me just run this by you, because this is a big deal. What if, and let me think about this for 1 second here. What if you realized, because many of you I've talked to have not had the realization until we've done the numbers, what if you realized you could potentially move a portion of the money in your portfolio into a tax-free account without paying any taxes whatsoever?
None?
What? Zero, John? Pay zero taxes?
Zero.
That's exactly what I'm telling you. And it happens all the time. When people live within their means, and they've saved well, and they have proper income, and they don't need to go buy a bazillion extravagant things, what we typically find is there's a small piece of the money we can typically move into a Roth IRA, and they pay literally zero taxes on making the conversion. And it doesn't even cause their Social Security to be taxed. But people don't know this. So here's one thing I'm going to say. Have you not done this math? If you have not done this math, beat up your CPA. Tell him, why have you not told me this, Cletus? Well, if Cletus is your CPA,
you're in trouble already.
I have a pretty good idea on why he hadn't told you.
Because he's Cletus, yes.
Yeah. No, but anyway, so if you haven't heard this, guys, please do your math on this. If you can pay a maximum of 12% in taxation on the money, and your kids have done a good job, they may be in the 22 to 24% tax bracket. So if you want to give it to them, you're doing the best gift ever by you actually paying the taxes on the money. So you need to consider that before the end of the year. After December 31st, can't do it no more. You got to do it on next year's dime. So pay taxes even if you don't have to. Just find out if it's worth it to consider doing. So that's a big deal. Here's a big one. So now we're at number 3. Is that number 3 on your list, Jennifer?
Number 3, if I'm following along correctly. Yep.
Oh, tax loss harvesting.
Okay.
That just sounds good, doesn't it?
Sounds so exciting.
I know. We're talking a lot about taxes, but that's one of those few things, guys, that we can look at before the end of the year, and it can actually make a difference, okay? Tax loss harvesting. Is there anything in your portfolio, like GE stock, like UPS potentially, like any energy stock, especially an oil company, that has just had its head handed to it in the last year or two? If that's the case, there's a great chance you can sell that stock and take a tax loss against the other portion of your portfolio or against your current income. But I thought that wasn't allowed. No, believe it or not, you can actually tax loss harvest a portion of your taxable accounts, and you can actually offset $3,000 in income from those tax losses you harvest. So that's pretty good.
Nice.
So why would you want to pay Uncle Sam taxes on $3,000? You don't have to.
Yeah.
The difference that you'll save is probably what it costs to get a CPA in the first place. You don't even have to do that. So that makes it pretty smart. So I think that tax loss harvesting is a big one. And Jennifer, I don't think we're going to get to all of them. So I want to say one last one here.
Okay.
You ready?
Yep.
Before the end of this year, please, I'm begging you before the end of this year to do one thing. I want you to assess your personal maximum drawdown, your maximum downturn before we lead into next year. Next year is going to be a political year, and here's the big one, guys. It's just going to be very volatile. No one knows who's going to win. No one knows what's going to happen with China. No one knows who's going to be congressional favorites, senatorial favorites. No one knows any of this. But the one thing that I know to be a fact is that regardless if the market is up or down, volatility is what causes us to make really dumb decisions at really wrong times. And so I just want us to all understand, if we understand the worst thing that can happen in any given day to our portfolio, and we can live with that, it lets us kind of sleep through, or at least pay less attention to that volatility that is absolutely going to happen. There's impeachment proceedings going on. Boo. Everyone is trying to posture to knock out the current seated president. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know this. There's going to be a lot of wild swings, and I don't want people doing the wrong thing at the wrong time just because they didn't know how their plan was going to perform. I met with a couple this past week. To them, the issue was they had no idea their maximum drawdown was 35%. That's a big deal. They felt like they could not recover from that in enough time to still pull income from their portfolio. So they decided to tweak that portfolio so that their worst case scenario, their new maximum drawdown was less than 12%, because they knew mathematically, even though they wouldn't like to lose 12%, if that happened, they could still pull income and still feel like they could live comfortably in their retirement. That's all I want us to do. So that would be a big one. Prep your portfolio for a very volatile 2020.
Have questions for John? Drop us an email at retirementsolutionradio.com.
Financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if John Hicks is licensed in your state, please call 502-690-5635. J. Hagan Capital Inc. is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through John Hicks, Kentucky Insurance License number 998827.